Hello, welcome to a brand new episode of the CHGO Fire Podcast, presented by Coors Light, the official domestic beer partner of Chicago Fire FC. Chicago, choose chill. Go to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Soccer to get Coors Light delivered straight to your door. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Well, the Fire have played 3 games since the last time we had one of these shows. One of them was the most boring game maybe of all time. The next one was them beating the number 1 team in the league on the road. Just don't look at the other team's injury report. And then they just couldn't take advantage of no Messi in Miami. And they are oddly, basically equidistant from the bottom of the table and the playoff line because MLS. I'm Alex Campbell. Thanks for joining me as always and welcoming back to the show. Tim Hotze of MenInRed97. Almost did the initialism there, but we'll go with the full name there. MenInRed97 Media. Tim, welcome back to the show. Always good to have you.
Yeah, good to be here.
So we've also got Leagues Cup around the corner. We're going to get to that later in the show. That starts up this weekend. Also, there has been lots of MLS summer transfer news, but the Fire have not really been a part of it because they can't really, and we will explain why later. But Tim, we've got a lot to get to, so let's dive right into it. Chicago Fire 0, New York City FC 0. This was technically a soccer game.
It lasted 90 minutes, plus a little bit of stoppage time, which I have no idea why. Why would you?
A ball was kicked.
Yes.
It did happen. Each team had just 1 shot on target. The Fire did take 11 shots, which isn't terrible, but those 11 shots generated less than 0.9 XG per FOTMob. Doing the math, each shot was worth about 0.08 XG. Yeah. So, that's bad. The only shot on goal also came in the 90th plus 4 right at the end of the game from Marin Haile Selassie, which, was kind of a chance in itself, but really it was because Kellen Acosta should have had the game winner on his foot and then just took a horrendous first touch. The upside, though, they allowed nothing. Chris Mueller was at wingback again, but they seemed to have ironed out some of the weaknesses there. NYCFC's only shot was from Santi Rodriguez in the 41st minute. It was quite tame, easily saved by Brady. They did hit the post once, but I think we're not going to spend much time here, Tim. The long and the short of it is the Fire defended well at home, but created absolutely nothing and squandered an opportunity for 3 points.
100%. And you said 11 shots, which is good. If you look at where those shots landed, I mean, they were missing the goal pretty much every direction you can miss the goal. It just was one of those things. And even then, it didn't feel like 11 shots, just because none of them really felt like they came out of any kind of sustained play or anything like that.
So this leaves the Fire with a home record of 12 played, 4 wins, 3 draws, 5 losses. 5 more home matches to go this season. They actually have 1 more home match than away match left this year. These last 2 away games have finally caught that up after the Fire have their spring is normally home heavy because they're trying to get ahead of the Bears schedule. That results in an away heavy summer. And now it's actually kind of surprisingly, despite the Bears incoming season, a pretty even split between home and away. Yes, at least one of those games, I believe it's the Toronto game, is going to be at Bridgeview.
One before that as well. I want to say the September 7th or 14th match. So yeah, it's like, and when you add the Leagues Cup in, it's like of the home games across all competitions, depending on what the team does in the Leagues Cup, even splits right now between games at Soldier Field and games at SeatGeek. So get ready to learn SeatGeek.
Yeah, I mean, although I feel like if anybody who's watching or listening to this podcast, they probably speak fluent SeatGeek.
Probably.
If that's a thing. And hey, if you're a longtime SeatGeek person, this might be like one of the last opportunities you ever get to watch soccer there, depending on how certain other things go. Certainly your last chance to watch the Fire potentially play there. So why not take advantage? Tim, do you have anything else to say about this 90 minutes of soccer?
That's a very generous way of calling what we saw.
All right, moving on. Chicago Fire 1, FC Cincinnati 0. The Fire take down the top team in the Eastern Conference on the road. I think we just need to sit there for a moment and say that's a thing that actually happened. That's not a thing the Fire do. So given how just completely uninteresting the New York City game was, it was encouraging to see them come out, and they played some real soccer in this game.
And it was like one of those things where there's 0-0 draws that are actually exciting to watch. The NYCFC game wasn't one of them. This game was an exciting 1-0 win, and I think that if you were a neutral that was hanging out in Cincinnati, like you would have had a good time at that game,
right?
Even though there's only 1 goal scored.
No, I mean this is very different than the XG battle of the last game. Both of these teams underperformed their expected goals pretty badly in this game. We'll get to the big reason why. Shout out to the Naperville goalkeeper factory that we had going in this game. Roman Salentano and Chris Brady respectively matching up in this one. This is the point where I have to mention that FC Cincinnati were without Luciano Acosta, Miles Robinson, and Matt Miazga. They have never won a game that Lucio Acosta doesn't play in. This is his 4th season on the team, so there's a lot of data to back that up at this point. And then they're just playing a totally makeshift back three. Kip Keller's in the middle of it. That proved important later. DeAndre Yedlin is playing as a right-sided center back. Luca Orejano is often playing as an inverted right wing back in this game. This was not Cincinnati's best team by any stretch of the imagination. The Fire also, though, made a couple of interesting changes that I think are worth talking about, though, Tim. After that boring affair against NYC, Brian Gutierrez and Callan Acosta both get dropped for this game. It's a Jimenez-Herbers double pivot. It's a 3-4-3 with Mueller and Haile Selassie at wingback. A more defensive posture in theory, but no Acosta, also no Guti. The sort of moves from Frank Klopas we haven't really seen often this year.
Yeah, and I got a chance to ask him about that after the game, and he did cite the number of matches, like 3 matches in the space of 8 days, so that was a factor. With Guti, though, he did call out his performance a little bit and say that it looked like it was fatigue, not just physically, but also mentally. And that's the second time that Guti's been out of the 11 with a quote like that from Frank explaining why.
Yeah, and we were talking about this a bit off air, and it's a criticism that's been leveled at the U.S. men's national team often in recent times, and a team that Guti pretty clearly aspires to be a part of and isn't there yet, that if it's a big game, if it's a tournament knockout game, or if it's Mexico, those guys show up and they look like one of the, a pretty good national soccer team. If it's against some minnow, guys are checked out all over the place, and I think that's where Guti is in his club career right now. Is he needs to be consistently on a game-to-game basis looking like he is fully attentive to what's going on the field.
Yeah, I mean, even though he's on a new U22 deal, it's a big boy contract in terms of the amount of money that the Fire are paying him. Mm-hmm. And, this was his chance to really grab the bull by its horns with Shaqiri out of the picture for a lengthy period. There's no question about who the guy in that central attacking midfield position would be. It was going to be Guti, and he really, I don't think, took full advantage of it.
Yeah, and he has played a lot of minutes, but maybe is this the best game to rotate? I mean, maybe in hindsight it is, because the Fire ended up winning it. So
when he got the tap and goal too.
Yeah, he gets the goal later. This game also featured all of the potential wingbacks. This game had Arno Suke, Jonathan Dean, Alan Aragoni, and Chris Mueller all in the lineup. Also, I guess Haile Selassie kind of falls into that category too. So we really weren't sure what this was going to be when we saw the lineup announced. But then it's an Occam's razor situation. It's just a 3-4-3 with Mueller joining in the front three to match up kind of directly with Cincinnati.
That's what Frank said after the match as well, that he was trying to match up what FC Cincinnati were doing, which, the team has, that means the team had shifted, for the second game in a row to match up what their opponent did, for better or for worse. Obviously they didn't look great in the previous match. It worked this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just goes how it goes. The Fire looked up for this game immediately. Suke, of all people, with just an absolute rocket of a shot in the 10th minute, forces an nice save from Salentano. Chris Mueller, a couple minutes later, gets out on goal, but under pressure just misses the target. 20th minute is the first big chance of the game. This is Roman Salentano going on walkabout, handing Ugo Kuipers the ball, and then Kuipers trying to score from a 5-degree angle. Ugo's been good, but in this moment, I'd like the striker's instinct to turn off for half a second, because if he picks his head up here, everything's wide open. The keeper's 20 yards from his goal. There should be a better chance on here than this.
Yeah, I mean, to his credit, though, the Fire have not exactly been great about getting numbers in the box at key moments like that, so there is a little bit of it being a team thing, where if the team had consistently been doing that better, maybe Kuipers is looking for that pass a little bit more than he actually was.
Not a whole lot else to say about the first half of this game. The next big moment is Kuipers again getting stopped by Celentano after some very nice soccer from the Fire. Kellen Acosta's on the field at this point. He comes on for Herbers at halftime because Fabi has picked up a yellow card and maybe should have had like 3 yellow cards in that first half. So that was a good substitution by Frank Klopas to get Fabi out of there before anything got worse. And Acosta plays his role in that Kuipers chance. Speaking of decisions made by Klopas, this game's 0-0, and in the 59th minute, he makes changes to go for this. Barlow and Guti onto the field for Mueller and Dean. So this is back to just a flat back 4. You've got Tom Barlow kind of playing as something between a left winger and a striker. Obviously, Guti's going to give you more in the attack. Haile Selassie is still out there. Again, not a thing we've seen Klopas and the Fire do a lot to look at a game that's tied, and instead of playing for the point, deciding to play for 3. This was great to see.
It was fantastic, yeah. And like the offense, like the team had been there. Like we talked about the chances, the times that they already tried Celentano by that point. They just needed to keep on doing it, and it was good to see them press the game, especially on the road. It's really not something we've seen as much of this season.
And again, it's a great atmosphere in Cincinnati. I mean, I'm not trolling or anything here. If you have the opportunity to see a game in that stadium, do it. It's not a big place, but the sound the architecture creates. It's also great food, like shockingly. For being a soccer stadium in Southwest Ohio, the food is impressively really, really good. So You've got my attention there. Of course, we get the requisite Tom Barlow swing and a miss foul tip chance like 30 seconds after he comes into the game. But then in the 69th minute, we get the Brian Gutierrez goal. I mentioned that Kip Keller is playing out of position here as the center back in the back 3. He totally whiffs a header. Basically plays in Kuipers for a 2-on-1. Kuipers does well, centers for Guti. He slots it home under Celentano. 1-0, smash and grab, Fire lead. And again, it's the sort of thing we talk about with the Fire. You've got a team down a bunch of guys, and one of the guys in an unfamiliar position makes a mistake, and the Fire pounce on it, and they capitalize. It's Guti's goal, but Kuipers was dangerous all night in this game, and it pays off here.
Yeah, he gets the assist on it. I mean, it's just a beautiful pass. Like, they had one angle on it on the broadcast where you could just see, like, if it wasn't exactly that angle and that strike from Kuipers to get the ball over to Guti, it doesn't work.
And then Guti does the smart thing. If he pulls his head up, he takes a nice soft touch, big deep breath, and he passes it under Celentano. Like, I'm sure there's probably some Cincy fans who think Celentano should stop this ball, but Celentano is just absolutely hurling his body through the air and not really paying attention to anything else. This is good by Guti. Don't try to do too much. Just pass it into the goal. Do the simple thing. It's 1-0. And then the Fire do a really nice job of, after making adjustments to attack, they change their tactics to just completely shut this game down. The frustration that results for Cincinnati ends in an Alvis Powell red card in the 88th minute. Another encouraging Fire sequence to see them be kind of the agitators and not the ones losing their head. Alvis Powell just throws Arno Suke into the advertising boards. Yellow card. He's immediately surrounded by the referee, Chris Brady, and Kellen Acosta, and then throws a fist out that hits Wyatt Omsberg in the face. Second yellow card, red card. It all took about 10 seconds. Acosta's a master at this, and it's nice to see that Chris Brady's been taking some notes.
Yeah, no, it's good to see the agitation. And, like, again, like, this is when you also give credit to Frank Klopas for taking off Herbers at the half, because the way he'd been playing, like, realistic chance the Fire would be down a guy if that change hadn't been made right then.
So the Fire win 1-0 in Cincinnati. Speaking of Brady, he's absolutely the man of the match. He makes 7 saves, a couple really big ones. One's right at the end. Bupenza has come on. I know he hasn't been good, but in a game where you have no attacking threat, I don't know why it took until like the 80th minute after you're losing for Bupenza to be in this game, even if he's like not 100% fit. But Brady starts in the team of the match day. This episode's going to have a lot of Chris Brady in it the rest of the way too, but he's had some not great games over the last couple of months. But this game right here, this is like anybody who's a big Chris Brady fan, shout out to our friend Alex Calabrese, also of Men in Red. Like, this is the game you circle and point at and you say, this is what Chris Brady is and can be.
Yeah, 100%. And, like, you know, a clean sheet, second game in a row, like, you can't really argue with that. Only letting 1 goal in against San Jose, the match before, the ones we're talking about, like, you really can't expect much more from a goalie than that.
And he's going to continue to play well, but maybe not get the breaks as much in the rest of this episode. We're going to talk about the Miami game coming up next after a quick word from some of the folks who make this podcast possible. CHGO Fire is brought to you and presented by Coors Light. Man, there's a lot life throws our way. It has been a particularly busy news week these last several days, a stressful news week, you might be able to say, and that just goes on top of the stresses of life, social media, your sports teams doing all sorts of crazy things. Really, right now in the summer of 2024, Tim, there are more opportunities than ever to sit back, relax, and choose to chill, to choose a chill mindset. And when you do that, that is the perfect time to reach for an ice-cold Coors Light. Coors Light is mountain cold refreshment, whether you're sitting in the parking lot at a tailgate after a long day at work, really doing anything in your summer. There's lots of moments to choose to chill, and Coors Light is right there for you when you make that choice. When you choose Coors Light, you know also that when the mountains turn blue, it's as cold as the Colorado Rockies. Coors Light is cold filtered and cold packaged for a smoother finish. When you embrace a chill mindset, it's a good time to choose chill and crack open a Coors Light mountain cold refreshment. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Soccer. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. CHGO Fire is also brought to you by our friends at Shady Rays, where you can get ready for the rest of your summer and the adventures you still have ahead with quality shades that are built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. They're celebrating their 11th anniversary this summer. That is where I got this pair, and it was part of a deal where I took advantage of their lost or broken guarantee. A pair of sunglasses I bought 2 years ago. I got a brand new pair for less than $20. They were delivered to my door with this pair within a couple of weeks. It was excellent customer service. Beyond those two pairs they've got hundreds of options to choose from. You're bound to find one that matches your style. Plus, if your shades ever go missing, like I said, you do not have to sweat it. Their customer service is great as part of that lost or broken guarantee. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deals of the season. Head to ShadyRays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades, rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right, Tim, one more game to get to here. The Fire's most recent game. A human night is always down in Miami. We're Inter Miami, the team that has existed for 4 years. We're wearing a throwback uniform. Yes, they are cool. Yes, Adidas is going to sell tons of them. I don't have a problem with that. It is still quite silly. Inter Miami 2, Chicago Fire 1. Also, this game was delayed so they could honor Messi for winning Copa America. Can we just be a normal sports league here? Can we be a normal anything here and do what every other team does, and you do ceremonies before the game start time slot so that it doesn't get delayed? But no, I suppose they had to get this on Apple TV, and they didn't want to adjust the broadcast window, and so the result is this game started 6 minutes late. Yeah. Anyway, the Fire roll out a back four for the first time in months. I kind of think this was probably a result of the way the Cincinnati game ended and Frank Klopas thinking that maybe this was the right posture to start the game with. That decision would age incredibly poorly. But what did you think of it, Tim, at the time when you saw that the Fire were literally for the first time since Shaqiri departed, the Fire were going to go with a back four? Yeah,
I mean, we've seen them kind of do it in game states, but not like as an official like lineup choice. And it, again, like asking Klopas about the switch for the FC Cincinnati game, he said that he wanted to mimic what it was the other team was doing. And that, I think, was the logic here as well. And while I get it, at the same time, we're 2/3 of the way through the season at this point. Like, in a perfect world, you'd want the team to have an established identity and players to have roles that they know and are executing in, so that, like, you bring your terms to the game rather than just adjusting to what the other team does.
So I mentioned this decision to go back four aged badly. It aged real quickly and real badly. 6th minute, goal Miami. Arnaud Souquet is playing as a solo right back in this game. And is he a better defender than Jonathan Dean? Yes, he is. He's also significantly slower than Jonathan Dean. Not saying that Jonathan Dean would have necessarily done better here, but Robert Taylor absolutely burns Souquet. Matias Rojas is left all alone as 3 Fire players. All follow Luis Suarez. I understand why you are concerned about Luis Suarez, but you can't just leave a guy standing there who had a time to take a touch and just pass it into the bottom corner. I just don't think you can play Arnaud Souquet as an out-and-out right back at this point. I think he's done fine on the right side of that back three, but you need to give him some help. And there really wasn't even a nominal right midfielder who was going to help much because Fabian Herbers was operating on the right side, often tucking in. Haile Selassie isn't coming all the way back from the front two to help. Miami, I'm sure, saw what was going on here, and it was very easy for them to exploit.
You know, what's crazy is, like, when you look at what Rojas was able to do, he is just standing in the Fire's box for seconds on end with no one on it.
Flat-footed, doing nothing.
Like nothing, and like there's no one even around him. Like he like legitimately could have had a legal claim for squatters' rights after the amount of time that he had spent in the box. Like, you know, and like that's the thing. Like I get like you're double teaming Suarez and whatever, but like you can't give any MLS player that kind of time and space. Like they will take advantage of it. Like they're like the skill level of that league is just such that anyone can make that shot. And
again, this is an easy coaching thing you do. I'm sure everyone was looking at the tactics board and being like, so yeah, Robert Taylor, just go run at that guy because it's going to probably result in some good things. The rest of this first half was quite boring. Miami had all the ball, though. The Fire basically did not touch the ball the rest of the first half. The only notable thing that did happen to a Fire player is that Wyatt Omsberg got hurt. Does not look good. Mauricio Pineda subs in. This is such a bummer, Tim, because Wyatt, it didn't make any sense why it took him so long to play this season, given the Fire's various defensive struggles, but he's kind of been an ever-present ever since he got the nod, and now to see him go down like this, it feels a lot like the Andrew Gutman situation earlier this year where he recovered from injury, came back, looked good, and then gets felled by bad luck basically immediately.
Yeah, and unfortunately with the Fire, it happens like right before Toby Salquist was ready to return for minutes. So Frank Klopas mentioned that in bringing in Pineda instead. He did also say it looked like it was an abdominal or like groin type issue, not a leg issue, which is good because it was a leg issue that really derailed his season when he was a game in, game out starter 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he never really was able to get back into the 11 on a regular basis until like basically the past few weeks. So good that maybe it's not a long-term injury. Like we don't have an update on it yet, but like, you know, again, like just it's great to see that like maybe it's not a repeat of that thing that took him out for a year.
Yeah, we'll get to more of this in a little bit, but he is on the League's Cup roster, which would tell us simply that it's not a season ender. He is thought that in the next month or so it is possible he could be playing soccer again. So it's 1-0 Miami at the half. The second half starts in the exact same way. 4 minutes in, Suarez burns Arnaud Souquet. Chris Brady, though alive to this danger, charges it down, makes the save. Again, the game continues in this weird way where Miami have the ball but don't really seem to know what they're doing with it. And then in the 73rd minute, the Fire tie the game. Rafael Xhijos, I mean, we clown the Fire's defending all the time. This is some of the worst defending I've seen by a Major League Soccer team in a long time. Rafael Xhijos, a center back, carries the ball at a walking pace for about 40 yards, and not a single green shirt does anything at all about it. He lines up the shot. It goes in. I think Drake Calendar's got to do better here, but still, like, the fact that Xhijos got the shot away at all is just hilarious.
You know, what's kind of funny about it is we normally think about Miami as being this team that, like, builds up and plays with the midfield, and their game plan for this one was just to bypass that entirely, and I guess because of that, they weren't used to using it either on either side of
Busquets
the
is
ball.
playing as a center back, so basically the entire metronome midfield thing doesn't really exist.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, but it, like, again, like you have to give Rafa credit. Like I feel like every goal that he scored for the Fire, like this is his third since coming over a couple years ago, like it has sort of looked like some variation of this where he's like, fine, I'll do it myself. Although like the Fire, I think had been controlling the tempo for like a good 10-ish, 15 minutes before the goal happened. Like it felt like they could maybe actually get 3 points out of this one even before the goal came.
Yeah, because Miami's in a very weird spot right now. I mean, without Messi and they've had so many injuries. This team's just not quite what it was supposed to be. So no,
missing 2 players for the Olympics as well.
Yeah, with Busquets in the center back position, again, that midfield kind of guys who are just meant to be ball winners and then hand the ball off to Taylor or Suarez or whoever. So no, it's not Miami at their most formidable. So it's 1-1. To your point, the Fire looking good. 75th minute, Miami get the eventual winner. It's Jordi Alba passing into an open net. And this is just not a good sequence for Mauricio Pineda, who subbed into the game for Wyatt Omsberg. the ball's kind of bouncing around the edge of the Fire area. A Miami player, I don't remember who, does like an overhead little flick to like no one in particular. They're just trying to put it back into the mixer. Brady is charging out. He's yelling. And Pineda just stands there. He gets in the way of Brady. Pineda does head the ball, but instead of heading it away, he heads it directly 90 degrees to his right, directly to Jordi Alba. The net is now empty. He passes it into the empty net. Brady's furious, as he should be, because he had a pretty good game, all things considered. And this is, we talk about bad defending from Miami on the Fire's goal. This is just another in a list of inexcusable individual defensive errors by the Fire this season.
Yeah, and I mean, for a professional now with the number of years of experience that Pineda has, like, it just is inexcusable. Like, I don't care how loud it is in Miami, and like I don't think it was that loud because it's not like FC Cincinnati's building where like TQL contains the sound that well. And like, let's be honest, I don't know what the official attendance was, but there were empty seats there. Like without Messi there.
This is 4 temporary stands in a parking lot. This is not some sort of cauldron.
Right. So, he has to be able to communicate with his goalkeeper when it's that loud, and he didn't. And
Brady could have taken his head off. Brady kind of then awkwardly goes to catch the ball because
I think that's what he was calling for. And, but like then Pineda just completely blanked on it and went like literally like heads up but heads down in terms of like not realizing what his goalkeeper was telling him.
Yeah, I mean, this is a clear opportunity to get a smash and grab point on the road that the Fire miss. They basically did what they had to do, Tim, to go in and sit in against a Miami team not at their best, a team they probably felt pretty good that we can bunker a lot, we can get a draw in this game, we can avoid running too much in this humidity, and we can just get the hell out of here because this is not a fun experience. We've been on the road a bunch this last week. Let's go home. Instead, they forfeit that opportunity. This, though, is where we have to take a look at the Eastern Conference standings because this leaves the Fire in just a hilarious spot. Somebody asked in the chat earlier, how many seeds is it? It is 9 teams making the playoffs, but it is a wild card between 8 and 9. Atlanta United currently with 28 points, occupying that 9th and final wild card spot. Philadelphia 27, Montreal 27, Nashville 26, DC 26, Fire 25, New England 23. But it is worth noting that the New England Revolution have played 2 fewer games than literally any of those other teams I just named. So the Fire are more or less in last place, but also basically only 1 game out of the playoffs. Yeah. It's
MLS.
It's weird. There shouldn't be 9 teams in the playoffs is basically what we're going to come down to here.
Yeah, I mean, and it also, like, normally, like, the 8 and 9 teams perform at something like a 42, 43, 44 point, like, season pace, and now it's closer to, like, 38, 39. So, I mean, that's what happens when you got teams like Inter Miami and FC Cincinnati that have just been beating up on everyone else in the conference, and Columbus, too, for the most part. So the Fire have a legitimate shot. They could have made it to be level with the postseason teams in points in 9th place if they had won. Again, making it hard for themselves with 9 games left.
Yeah, because if you look at these teams, Atlanta's a mess. Atlanta's looking to 2025 already. This season will be what it will be. Maybe they're going to spend a bunch of money this summer still, but they've gotten so much in that maybe Garth Lagerwey will decide. He's not going to try to worry him too much about this season. He's going to look more long-term.
They're making long-term moves. They're going to try to spend the money, but they're not going to make a move just to make a move this year.
No. Then you got Philly, who's a mess. They just made a trade this week for a St. Louis striker who hasn't actually done that much because they let Julian Carranza go to Feyenoord for allegedly no money. So I don't know what that's about there. Again, Jim Curtin kind of feels like he's at the end of a cycle there. Montreal are in fire sale mode. I don't get why they're doing that either because this is just kind of what they are. And
you're one of their head coach that's finally got them playing with possession and stuff too. But
again, Saputo's the most impatient man ever. But hey, he was willing to give up a couple million Canadian dollars for Jesse Marsh to be the head coach. Why not just support the potentially good team you have? But I don't run an MLS team. DC is DC, and then New England. God, New England's just bad. They are just flat out not very good. I believe Esmir Baraktarovic is on that Olympic team, and so he is their main creative force, despite Carlos Heel being on the roster, and he is gone. So, yeah.
Carlos Heel just getting back from injury, too. So, like, they could, like, it's weird. Like, this is basically the same roster that was, like, aiming for, like, 63 points last year, and then, the coaching nightmare happened, and the solution they thought was Caleb Porter, which I don't know, hasn't worked out for him.
No, not exactly. So that's the state of the East. After this next break, we're going to look ahead to the League's Cup. Is it maybe a distraction for the Fire? Is it something to be excited about? What exactly does the League's Cup mean at this point for the Fire after we take another quick break? CHGO Fire is presented and brought to you by Sunnyside. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products from novices to experts. They've got everything you need to elevate your summer. Sunnyside is truly a one-stop shop. Their menu is expertly curated with over 100 strains to choose from and easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Sunnyside creates an exceptionally easy experience both through their online store and their very helpful staff when you arrive to pick up your order. Sunnyside is Illinois' favorite dispensary with locations in the city and beyond, including in Wrigleyville and River North. If you are somebody who is just starting out, Sunnyside's expert guidance and they have brands you'll love can combine to make it a great first experience. But if you're a pro, they've got you covered with over 100 strains on the menu, new ones being added weekly. They know you'll love Cresco and Florical's incredible quality and consistent products if you are a more discerning customer. It's easy to order online, and they're there to help you in store. Here for the summer, for example, is Good News' Tea Time Disposable Vape, bringing classic lemonade flavor that's perfect for the golf course, because we all need a little help staying loose on the green. We had our CHGO first golf event, the Scramble, yesterday. Another one coming up later. I'm sure there were a few people having Sunnyside try to help them relax and do their best out there yesterday. You can visit sunnyside.com for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Not just your first purchase, your first 3 when you enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders. Also, we'd like to shout out our friends at Ray Chevrolet. You can choose Ray Chevrolet as your first overall draft pick and find the right new Chevy and price for you. Visit our partners there this July to shop the Freedom to Save sales event going on all month at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. Plus, find the perfect tailgate vehicle. Right now, get $12,000 off MSRP on a new 2024 Chevrolet Silverado, or lease the new 2024 Chevy Trax for only $188 a month for 24 months. Or you can cruise into July your own way and shop over 125 of their vehicles that are currently priced under $20,000. And if you've heard of Ray Chevrolet, you've also heard of Ray's Price Promise. They're guaranteed to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever with no price changing, no add-ons, no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible prices we're talking about right now on this show, you can expect to see them the very same when you shop Ray Chevy in-store or online. Shop the Freedom to Save sales event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. All right, Tim, the League's Cup is upon us. It starts this weekend. The Fire in their group of 3 with Sporting Kansas City and Toluca of Liga MX. Yes, one of these magical tournaments that unfortunately, unlike the 2026 World Cup, the organizers were not able to be bullied out of for 3-team groups with 2 teams advancing, being a stupid way to do anything. The Fire will play at Kansas City on Sunday at Children's Mercy Park. And Thursday, August 1st, they will host Toluca. That's at SeatGeek Stadium, 8 o'clock. The round of 32 begins the weekend of Friday, August 9th. Just a few refreshers. Again, 15 groups of 3. 2 teams from each group advance. Club America and Columbus Crew have the byes because they won their respective leagues. As for who the teams in the Fire's group could play, the winner of the Fire group will play the winner of Houston, RSL, and Atlas, which, okay, that's, even though you're playing another group winner, that's not too scary a potential matchup. RSL have been quite good. If you finish second in the Fire's group, you get the Crew.
Right.
Probably in Columbus, which, no thank you.
So yeah, the Fire's group is the only one because there are 15 groups, which is, again, weird, and 3 team groups are an abomination and a crime against the natural order. But it's the only group where it's a winner plays winner situation, which, whatever.
Yeah.
Take it. But yeah, I mean, it's still a group the Fire I think should have every expectation that they should advance out of.
Sporting Kansas City, kind of like the Fire, might see this as an opportunity to forget how bad they are right now. But the kind of bad Sporting Kansas City are is a different kind of bad than the Fire are.
Certainly much, like their talent ceiling is a lot lower. And
there's like several teams in the West who are just not good soccer teams, and SKC is one of them.
Yeah, and they are allegedly in the beginning of a 3-window rebuild. You know, whether it gets rebuilt better than it was before, I think a lot of SKC fans will believe it when they see it. Just they've been around this ownership group and this front office long enough where they don't expect any real changes to make the team significantly better.
You know, Tim, sometimes the prominent silver-haired statesman who's been in charge for a while just needs to step aside for the betterment of the organization he's leading. Shout out Peter Vermes. Top 3 teams in the tournament get a place in next year's CONCACAF Champions Cup. The Fire released their roster for the tournament today. The interesting note here is the Fire 2 players on the roster: Christian Kofi, Harold Osorio, David Pareba, Jalen Shannon. Shannon, kind of the most unknown quantity of those guys. Kofi's been a good contributor for Fire 2. I really hope we see a lot of Harold Osorio and David Pareba. Pareba extended his Golden Boot lead in MLS Next Pro the other day with a penalty kick to add to his tally. He is 21 years old. He's probably not a guy with the ceiling that projects as like a, really high value asset, but being one of the best players in the league you're playing in has to be worth something, and I hope the beginning of that payoff is him playing a prominent role in at least these next 2 games.
And the location of the net, like where the net is, doesn't change as you advance levels. So
also, he's used to playing in Bridgeview at SeatGeek, so
right, he's just back home. Going to be a few more people than there are for Fire 2 games, though. So
yeah, especially for that. The home match is against Toluca. The Liga MX teams coming in is always fun. Not going to quite be what America was last year. That was a bit different. The Red Stars, and CHGO Red Stars coming up live after this show, are taking on Chivas in their basically the women's equivalent of this tournament, and that is another example of you kind of hope there's a good crowd that turns up because it's a well-supported team locally. Toluca, a little less.
Toluca, we'll see. Yeah, I think it'll be something around what the Puebla game was, maybe a little bit more because it's a club that certainly has a following. It just isn't one of those Catrandes.
Mm-hmm. Not one of the 6 teams that is pulling all the strings of the Mexican national team and doing all they can to keep Mexico not very good at men's international soccer. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Again, I agree that the Fire absolutely should get out of this group. It's one of those things where there's no reason they shouldn't. The debate is how seriously they should take it, because personally, and you can give your thoughts, maybe you'll agree or disagree, Tim, I don't want to see, at least in Kansas City on Sunday, I don't want to see Ugo Kuipers. I don't want to see Marin Haile Selassie. I don't want to see Brian Gutierrez. I don't want to see Alan Aragoni. I don't want to see Chris Brady. I don't want to see anybody who, if they were to be injured, could single-handedly tank what's left of the Fire season.
I mean, the other way of looking at it, though, is you're in 14th place and, the team below you has 2 games in hand. So this is a chance where everyone starts at 0. I asked Frank Klopas before the season started, when it wasn't clear whether or not the Fire would get to compete in the Open Cup or not, what he thought about the team. And he gave a very political answer, but what he said is, look, any competition we have the opportunity to compete in, we want to try to win it. And I mean, Klopas, no one in the front office, neither Klopas, none of the players chose to pick the League's Cup over the Open Cup. They are just in this competition. It starts at 0. Everyone has no points. I think you have to go for it. Because a run of any consequence could be the most fun that Fire fans get to have this season. And,
Yes, I guess the reason I specified Kansas City is that if, let's say, they get a draw or even a win in KC, well, if you get a win in KC, you're basically through already. So
yeah, exactly.
If the Toluca game is meaningful, I guess, in front of a home crowd, maybe then you can roll out something that looks more like your first team. This first game, I guess I don't really see the point.
I kind of would go the other way. I try to get the win because then you're right. It's really hard to not advance if you get that's what happened to the Fire last year, right? They beat Minnesota, which a lot of people weren't expecting, in that game where Shaqiri kind of played a Jedi mind trick on Dane St. Clair. And after that, the Fire really knew that they almost nothing that could have happened in the Pueblo game would have, kept them from advancing.
Briefly, before we get out of here, we should note that the summer transfer window is fully open because the MLS window is now open also, which means MLS is open, Europe's open, everybody's currently open for business. This is the point in the show where we have to mention Xherdan Shaqiri exists. Frank Klopas said he believes Shaqiri would be back before Leagues Cup. We're running out of days for that. He is on the Leagues Cup roster, but Tim, all indications remain that both the club and Shaqiri want a split, and the problem right now is finding somebody to pay out the remainder of his contract.
Yeah, so to be clear, like if he were to sign a new deal with a different team, the Fire would let him go. His existing contract becomes null and void. The Fire owe him something north of $2 million, which he would collect between now and October, whether he plays or not.
Right.
So the Fire don't have a second buyout. They have a completely full roster, both on the senior end and the reserve end. So any player in has to be matched with the player out. Obviously, Shaqiri is one of the ones that would open up a DP spot. But anyone that moves out, like Gaston, could be bought off of his DB contract, and they could bring in another piece that way. But you just have to move someone on before you can bring anyone in.
Yeah, the Fire's stuck right now. So, I mean, that's why you haven't seen any rumors about Fire transfer activities, because literally right now they cannot do anything. I mean, we've seen these multiple South American moves linked. The Fede Navarro thing came and went. The Gaston Jimenez thing came and went.
If I had a nickel for every time that somebody linked Gaston Jimenez with a move back to Argentina, I'd have like 15 nickels, which is like not a lot of money, but it's a lot of nickels.
It's an inconvenient amount of nickels, and it seems like it's been an inconvenience in Gaston Jimenez's life. A couple other MLS moves that have happened since our last show that are notable. Olivier Giroud confirmed to LAFC. He's joining them maybe next week, probably post-Leagues Cup. Inter Miami are going to sell Diego Gomez to Brighton, which is good business for them. That's actually a quietly really awesome piece of business they've done in signing a young player, and they're going to make a lot of money. He's being loaned back, according to reports, from Brighton for the remainder of the season. I mentioned Sam Adeniran moves from St. Louis to Philly because Philly can't score any goals. If you're a real U.S. soccer sicko, you might remember Henry Wingo, a guy who's been chilling in Hungary at Ferencváros for the last several years. He's with Toronto now. Atlanta United, Caleb Wiley to Chelsea, $11 million. Reports are he's going to head out on loan to Strasbourg in Ligue 1, in France. That kind of felt like a good time for everybody because Atlanta's weird and bad, and Wiley's at a stage in his career where he just needs to keep being challenged so he doesn't stagnate.
And Atlanta keep a sell-on percentage too, so it's really good business from them. They have made like over $50 million this year by moving players on.
And then maybe the funniest one right now, I think, is Karol Swiderski, who went to Hellas Verona for the second half of the Serie A season, then went to the Euros, showed up back in Charlotte, credit to him for coming back even if briefly, and scored a goal the other day. He is also, though, probably headed right back out the door, maybe to Hellas Verona, maybe somewhere else, but kind of a fun little pit stop back in the U.S. for Karol Swiderski in between moves. So MLS teams are moving. There are things happening. It is All-Star Week. The Skills Challenge is tonight. If you tune in early on MLSsoccer.com, I believe you could see goalie wars between some very young goalkeepers. So that's fun. And then tomorrow night in Columbus, MLS takes on the Liga MX All-Stars. So happy Leagues Cup week, I guess, if you celebrate.
And All-Star Week if you celebrate. Not that Fire fans really have a reason to.
No All-Stars. I'm kind of salty about this. I know it's stupid, but there was 6 dudes who had to withdraw, and we couldn't get Ugo Kuipers into that game. Come on now.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of CHGO Fire. Tim Hotze, thank you, as always, for coming through. Always appreciate your insight.
Yeah, good to be here.
I'm Alex Campbell. Again, if you're watching live, CHGO Red Stars is immediately up next. Leslie Ryder of Galpal Sports will join me for that. CHGO Fire will be back in 2 weeks as usual. Until then, I'll see you next time. This has been another episode of CHGO Fire.